Evan Brooks worked unseen high above the Fairmont Regency Gala, fixing a stubborn spotlight. Below, every screen showed Madeline Pierce, tech billionaire, once the girl he helped escape a broken foster home. She stepped into the light, looked up, and whispered his name. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. Evan Brooks had learned to disappear in plain sight. 37 years old, single father, lighting technician, the kind of man who spent his nights 30 feet above strangers' heads tightening bolts no one noticed. That evening, the Fairmont Regency Hotel glowed like a palace. A charity gala for the Heartline Futures Foundation. Gold banners, crystalline chandeliers, cameras clicking like insects. But Evan was on the scissor lift above it all, adjusting a stubborn spotlight. He preferred the quiet up high. The city looked different from ladders and rafters. Smaller. Manageable. He glanced down only once, when the MC announced the guest of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Madeline Pierce. The name hit him harder than the spotlight glare. Madeline. He hadn't said her name aloud in years, not since they were foster kids sharing a cramped room with peeling wallpaper and secrets too heavy for childhood. Back then she was just Maddie, the girl with a backpack full of broken pencils and a bruise she never explained. The girl he'd walked to school every morning. The girl he'd helped escape. Now she stood beneath him, elegant and impossible, cameras capturing her like art. A world-famous tech billionaire. The woman half the city respected and the other half envied. But then it happened. She stepped to the podium. Froze. And slowly lifted her gaze upward. Their eyes locked through the haze of lights and distance. Shock rippled across her face. Her breath hitched. And her lips shaped a single word. Evan. The microphone captured it. The entire ballroom went silent. Evan's wrench clattered in his hand. Every instinct screamed to look away, pretend she was seeing someone else, but there was no mistaking it. For the first time in 20 years, Madeline Pierce had found the boy who once gave her everything he had just so she could run. And she wasn't letting him disappear this time. For a moment, no one breathed. Hundreds of donors sat frozen at their linen-draped tables, forks suspended, conversations cut in half. Cameras tilted upward, operators confused, trying to understand why the billionaire on stage had suddenly gone still. Madeline didn't blink. Didn't speak. Didn't look away. Evan Brooks, she said, this time into the microphone. The room rippled. Whispers darted across the ballroom. Evan's knees locked. He felt the heat of 1,000 eyes rising toward him like a tide. Dana, the event coordinator, hissed from below. Don't look at her, don't move, just get down. But Madeline had already stepped off the stage. Her heels clicked sharply on the glossy floor as she crossed the ballroom, ignoring her security team's frantic gestures. People parted for her like she was walking through water. One man stood. Then another. Phones lifted. Lights flashed. Evan climbed down the scissor lift slowly, every rung a heartbeat. He hadn't prepared for this. He hadn't prepared for her. When his boots touched the carpet, she stopped a foot from him. Up close, she looked nothing like the girl he remembered, and exactly like her at the same time. Same determined jaw. Same fierce eyes. Same trembling hope. It's you, she whispered. I started to think I imagined you. He opened his mouth, but the words stuck. Madeline, you don't have to. She cut him off by taking his hand. And then, unbelievably, she turned toward the stage and gently tugged him with her. Come with me, she murmured. Before he could protest, she guided him up the stairs, her grip steady, protective, almost urgent. The audience murmured louder, confused and fascinated. Evan felt like he was moving through a dream he had no map for. At the podium, Madeline faced the crowd. Before we begin the program, she said, voice tight with emotion, there's someone you all need to meet." Evan froze beside her in the blinding lights, wishing he could disappear behind the velvet curtains or the nearest exit sign. But Madeline held onto his hand like she'd waited 20 years to do it. "This," she said, her voice breaking, "is the boy who saved my life." A collective gasp rippled across the ballroom. Evan swallowed hard. He'd spent 2 decades trying to forget. She'd spent 2 decades trying to find him. And now the entire city was about to hear why. The ballroom fell into a hush so complete it felt unreal, like the air itself was waiting for Madeline to continue. Evan stood beside her, spine stiff, wishing he were anywhere else. But Madeline's voice, quiet yet steady, anchored him to the stage. "When I was 15, she began, I lived in a foster home that wasn't safe." A murmur spread. Everyone in that room knew Madeline Pierce's legend, the brilliant dropout who founded a tech empire, but no one knew this. Evan's stomach tightened. He remembered that house. The slamming doors. The cold dinners. The shadows no one talked about. "I was terrified most nights," Madeline continued. "But there was one person who refused to let me walk to school alone. One person who stood between me and everything that tried to break me." Her fingers tightened around Evan's hand. "This man." She turned to him. "Evan Brooks." Evan shook his head lightly, embarrassed, but she pressed on. "He gave me something no one else ever did. Safety. A beat. And when it became too dangerous to stay, he gave me every dollar he'd ever saved so I could leave. He told me to run. To build the life he believed I deserved." Evan's throat closed. He hadn't expected this, not here, not now. Madeline blinked back tears. "I kept that money in my pocket the day I boarded a bus to San Francisco. I used it to apply to a tech program. It changed everything. He changed everything." The room was silent, spellbound. "I've spent the last 20 years trying to find him," she said. "But foster records get sealed. People scatter. And I thought I lost him forever." Her voice wavered, but she steadied herself. Then, 2 months ago, when reviewing vendors for this event, her eyes found Evan's again. "I saw a name on the list. A lighting technician. Someone who prefers to stay invisible." A soft, emotional laugh escaped her. "And I booked this ballroom on the spot." A ripple of shock moved through the audience. Evan felt heat rising behind his eyes. It was overwhelming, the lights, the cameras, the memories he'd buried deep. Madeline turned fully toward him, and her voice softened so much only he could hear it. "I never forgot you. Not one day." For 20 years, she'd carried his name like a compass. And now, under blinding lights and watching strangers, Evan understood something he'd never dared to hope. Madeline Pierce hadn't come here to make a scene. She came to bring him home. Applause didn't erupt immediately. It started soft, a few hands, hesitant, unsure how to react to something so raw on a stage built for polished speeches. Then it spread like a wave, rolling through the ballroom until the entire room was on its feet. Madeline didn't turn toward them. She kept her eyes on Evan. He wanted to disappear, not because he was ashamed but because he wasn't used to being seen. Not like this. Not by her. "Madeline," he whispered, "you don't owe me anything. What happened back then, it was just kindness," she finished. "The kind that saves lives." Before he could answer, she reached to the table beside the podium and picked up a navy blue folder, thick, heavy, formal. She held it as if she'd been waiting years to hand it to him. "Evan," she said clearly, "I didn't bring you here just to thank you." She offered him the folder. "I'm offering you a job." Evan blinked. "A job?" "A full-time position as technical director at the Pierce Foundation," she said. "Salary. Benefits. A real schedule, one that lets you be home for dinner with Emma every night." His chest tightened. Emma. His 11-year-old. His whole world. He pictured her at the small kitchen table, coloring homework pages while he packed tools into a bag for another late-night shift. "You'd be leading lighting design for our youth centers, theaters, community hubs," Madeline continued. "And if you accept, you also get this." She opened the folder for him, the crowd craning to see. A scholarship packet. His daughter's name printed across the top. Evan swayed. Madeline's voice softened. "Emma Brooks would receive full tuition support through our Youth Futures initiative. Middle school through college." A collective gasp spread across the room. Evan pressed a hand to his forehead. "Madeline, this is too much." She stepped closer, her voice lowering. "Evan, you gave me everything you had," she said. "I'm just trying to return a piece of that." He felt the world tilting, the weight of exhaustion, hope, disbelief all pressing into him at once. He shook his head. "I can't take charity." Madeline's eyes glimmered. "It's not charity. It's gratitude. And opportunity. Something you've always deserved but never been given." She held his gaze, steady and warm. "Let me do this for you the way you once did it for me." Evan's throat tightened. The folder felt heavy in his hands, heavy with the promise of a future he never allowed himself to imagine. The audience watched breathless as he finally exhaled. "Madeline. I." But before he could finish, Madeline gently placed a hand over his. "No rush," she whispered. "Just know, the offer stands." The room erupted once more. And for the first time in years, Evan Brooks felt something unfamiliar rising inside him. A future that didn't feel out of reach. The applause eventually faded, replaced by soft music and the clinking of glasses as the gala cautiously resumed. But Evan didn't move. He stood on the edge of the stage, staring at the navy blue folder in his hands like it might evaporate if he blinked. Madeline stood beside him, giving him space. Exactly the way she used to when they were kids, close enough to feel safe, far enough not to crowd him. "You don't have to decide tonight," she said quietly. Evan swallowed. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything yet." She managed a soft smile. "You've been carrying the world on your shoulders for a long time. Let someone else help for once." He let out a shaky breath. "I'm just a lighting tech." "No," she corrected gently. "You're the person who put me on a path to everything I have. And you're a father doing the impossible on a shoestring and stubbornness." Her voice softened even more. "You deserve more than the scraps life keeps handing you." He looked down at the scholarship letter. Emma's name. Printed clearly. Boldly. As if her future was something solid instead of something fragile and frightening. A tear escaped before he could stop it. Madeline touched his arm, light, respectful. "Evan, this is a chance. Not because you're a charity case." Her voice dipped. "But because you matter to me." The words hit harder than the applause had. Before he could respond, a small commotion stirred near the foot of the stage. Dana, the event coordinator, hurried up the steps and whispered urgently to Madeline. "Press wants a statement. They're already posting photos. We need to clarify." Madeline raised a hand. "Tell them the truth." Dana hesitated. "All of it." "All of it," Madeline said firmly. "I'm done hiding where I come from." Dana nodded and hurried off. Evan blinked in disbelief. "You don't have to drag your past into the spotlight." Madeline turned toward him, eyes steady. "Evan, my past is the reason I built everything I built. The reason I created my foundation. The reason I spent half my life trying to give kids what I never had." She paused. "What I'm doing tonight, telling the truth, it's because you showed me I didn't have to be ashamed of where we started." Evan's throat tightened again. He wasn't used to being a reason for anything. Madeline took his hand once more. Come by the foundation headquarters on Monday. No pressure. Just a tour. Bring Emma, if you want. Let her see what her future could look like. Evan nodded slowly, overwhelmed but unable to deny the flicker of hope warming his chest. I'll think about it, he whispered. Madeline's smile deepened, the kind he remembered from stolen late-night talks in that Foster house kitchen. That's all I wanted. And for the first time in a very long time, Evan felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Not collapsing, but opening. A door he never expected. A life he never thought he'd be offered. Evan didn't sleep much that weekend. The folder sat on his kitchen table like a guest he didn't know how to talk to. Every time he passed it, he paused, fingers hovering over the scholarship papers, the contract, the embossed letterhead that looked too important for a man who still fixed broken lamps for his neighbors. Emma, of course, noticed. His 11-year-old daughter always noticed. Dad, she said Sunday morning, leaning on the table, her curls spilling across her cheek, why do you look like you're trying to decode alien language? He forced a smile. Just thinking, Peanut. Emma squinted at the documents. Is that homework? Because it looks like homework. It's a job offer. Her eyes widened. A good job. He hesitated. A job that could change things. She looked at him for a long moment, then climbed onto the chair beside him, resting her chin in her hands. Does it help us get out of this apartment? Evan's chest tightened. He glanced around, the peeling paint, the humming fridge, the window that never closed right. Maybe, he said softly. Emma nodded, practical as always. Then you should do it. He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. It's not that simple. Why not? Because the woman offering it, she's someone I used to know. A long time ago. Like a girlfriend? She asked, fighting a grin. He laughed. No. More like, someone I protected. Back when I was a kid. Emma blinked, surprised. Her father rarely talked about the past. So you helped her, she said slowly, connecting the dots the way only she could. And now she wants to help you. He swallowed. I guess. Dad. She poked his arm. That sounds fair. He stared at her, this small, brilliant kid who deserved far more than he could give. It wasn't her future he doubted. It was himself. Still, Monday morning arrived whether he was ready or not. Evan stood outside Pierce Foundation headquarters, a tower of glass and steel cutting into the sky. Emma squeezed his hand, oversized hoodie swallowing her frame, the foundation's logo printed across it. Madeline had insisted she take one at the gala's end. Dad, Emma whispered, awestruck, the building is shiny. That's one word for it, Evan murmured. The doors opened automatically, and warm air swept over them. Inside, sunlight danced across marble floors. Receptionists smiled warmly. People buzzed with purpose, not tension. And there, walking toward them in a soft gray suit, radiant but grounded, was Madeline. She smiled the moment she saw them. Evan. Emma. I'm so glad you came. Emma tugged her father's sleeve, whispering. Dad, she looks like someone out of a movie. Madeline laughed gently. No, sweetheart. Just someone who's very excited to meet you. And as she led them deeper into the building, Evan realized. He wasn't walking into a job interview. He was walking into a new life. Madeline guided them through the soaring lobby, her pace unhurried, as though this tour mattered more than the back-to-back executive meetings surely waiting upstairs. Evan kept a slight distance, unsure where to put his hands, his shoulders tense from years of making himself small. Emma, on the other hand, walked like she'd stepped into a theme park. Dad, look, she whispered loudly, pointing at a wall-sized digital screen displaying animated constellations. It's like space. Madeline smiled. It's our youth discovery wall. Kids design constellations during workshops, and the system animates them. Emma's eyes sparkled. No way. You guys make stars here. We try. Madeline glanced at Evan. Light belongs everywhere. Some kids just need access to it. Evan swallowed. He wasn't sure how to respond to a sentence like that. They took the elevator up to the 7th floor, the creative learning wing. When the doors opened, even Evan's breath caught. The floor stretched into a corridor of color and glass. Studios. Mini theaters. Design labs. Music rooms humming faintly behind soundproof walls. Emma gasped. Dad, can we live here? Madeline laughed softly. Some kids practically do. After-school programs, mentorship, tutoring, it's all free. Evan ran a hand across a table covered in robotics kits and circuit boards. He'd spent years fixing lights in empty banquet halls, not once imagining his skills mattered to anyone outside paying clients. You'd be designing the lighting for all of this, Madeline said gently, watching him. The stages, the classrooms, the tech labs. You understand how light affects emotion, attention, creativity. You always did. Evan blinked. Madeline, you talk like you know me. She met his eyes. I do. He looked away quickly. Emma pressed her palm against a glass wall overlooking a small theater in progress. Rows of seats curved around a stage bathed in gentle amber light. Dad, she breathed, is this where you'll work? If he says yes, Madeline added. Emma turned to her father with the sincerity only a child could wield. Dad, you have to say yes. He chuckled, nerves unraveling for the first time in days. Peanut, slow down. Madeline stepped closer, lowering her voice. This isn't about repaying a debt. Or pity. This is about talent. I built this foundation because kids like us didn't get chances. We create opportunities, and we hire people who know why they matter. A beat. People like you. Evan felt the words settle deep, like something unlocking. No one had spoken to him like that in years, maybe ever. Before he could answer, Emma spotted a small rooftop garden through another glass door. Can we go out there? She asked. Madeline smiled. Absolutely. As they stepped onto the rooftop, the city stretched in every direction, skyscrapers glinting, traffic humming like distant music, morning sun warming their faces. Emma spun, arms wide. Dad! This place feels like the world is big again. Evan watched her, heart tight. For the first time in a long time, the world didn't feel like a weight. It felt like a possibility. They lingered on the rooftop longer than Evan expected. The skyline stretched endlessly, sunlight turning every glass tower into a blade of gold. Emma kept darting between planters, naming flowers incorrectly with full confidence, while Madeline watched her with a softness Evan didn't remember seeing back in the foster home. She's incredible, Madeline murmured. Evan's chest warmed. Yeah. She is. Does she know how hard you've worked for her? Madeline asked quietly. No. He shook his head. Kids shouldn't have to know how heavy life gets. Madeline nodded, her expression touched by something deeper, recognition, maybe even guilt. You always carried the weight for everyone, she said. Back then, and now. He wasn't sure what to do with that. Compliments were easier to deflect than accept. They returned inside, walking through a hallway of framed photos, kids in workshops, teenagers at robotics competitions, performers on small stages built by the very programs she'd created. This is why I built the foundation, Madeline said. Not the press. Not the PR. This. Evan studied one of the pictures, a little girl wearing enormous safety goggles as she soldered a circuit board. Her expression intense, determined. Hopeful. He felt something twist inside him. Madeline. I fix lights. I climb rigs. I keep hotels from looking like disasters during big events. I don't, he gestured around helplessly. I don't belong in a place like this. Madeline stopped walking. Turned. Faced him fully. Evan, she said softly, you are the reason I have this place. You think I built a multi-million-dollar foundation because I magically believed in myself at 19? Her voice cracked, honest and raw. I believed in myself because one person, ever told me I deserved safety. Deserved more. He swallowed hard. You, she said. You did that. A long silence stretched between them. The kind that wasn't uncomfortable, just fragile. Important. Then Emma tugged his sleeve. Dad? He blinked down. Yeah, Peanut. Are you gonna work here? Because I think this is the happiest place I've ever seen. Madeline laughed, but there was emotion in it. She crouched slightly to Emma's height. Emma, she said kindly, your dad is one of the brightest people I've ever met. He sees light where people forget to look. She pointed to the ceiling fixtures. Do you know how much that matters? Emma shrugged. A lot. A lot, Madeline echoed. Evan rubbed his face, overwhelmed. Too much kindness. Too much truth. Too many years of living small colliding with the possibility of something bigger. He finally said, voice low, I'll need time to think. Madeline straightened, her expression warm but steady. Take all the time you need. But the look she gave him, gentle, knowing, said she already understood something he didn't. He wasn't really deciding if he would take the job. He was deciding if he believed he deserved it. By the time Evan and Emma returned home that evening, the sun had dipped behind the skyline, turning the city into a blur of blue shadows and amber streetlights. Evan unlocked their apartment door, still hearing echoes of the foundation halls, laughter, distant music, Madeline's voice telling him he mattered. Inside, their small living room felt even smaller. Emma dropped onto the couch, pulling her hoodie over her knees. Dad, she said through the fabric, are you still thinking? Yeah, he admitted. She peeked out. Thinking is good. But sometimes you think so much you forget to decide. He smirked. Since when are you my therapist? Since you started staring at the ceiling like it owes you money. He exhaled, sitting beside her. Emma leaned into him, her head against his shoulder. Do you like her? Emma asked suddenly. Evan blinked. What? Madeline? Yeah. You get all weird around her. Weird? Like you're scared you're gonna break something, she clarified, not unkindly. Evan rubbed his forehead. I'm not scared of her. I'm scared of making the wrong choice. Emma thought about that for a long moment. Dad, you've been doing everything alone since I was little. Maybe it's okay to let someone help now. Even if it feels weird. Her child-sized honesty hit harder than she knew. He kissed the top of her head. Go get ready for bed, Peanut. When she disappeared down the hallway, Evan finally let the truth surface. He wasn't afraid Madeline's offer was too good to be true. He was afraid it was real. He opened the Navy folder again. The job description. The salary. The benefits. The scholarship letter with Emma's name. It felt like looking at someone else's life. A knock pulled him from his thoughts. He frowned, it was late. He opened the door cautiously. Madeline stood in the hallway. Soft sweater. Messy bun. No cameras, no guards, no billionaire armor. Just a woman who looked like she'd been pacing for hours. Evan, she said, breathless. I know it's late, but I needed to say one more thing. He stepped aside, stunned. Did something happen? No. She hesitated, searching for words. I don't want you to take the job because you feel obligated. And I don't want you to turn it down because you think you're not enough. He froze. She continued softly, you protected me when no one else did. You gave me a chance at a life I never thought I'd get. Now it's my turn to give you one. Not because you saved me. Not because you're some symbol of my past. A breath. But because you are exactly the kind of person I want shaping the future of my foundation. Evan swallowed hard. Madeline. I don't know if I can live up to that. She stepped closer. You already did. Silence wrapped around them, warm, fragile, impossibly full. And for the first time since the gala, Evan felt something shift inside him. Maybe this wasn't her bringing him into her world. Maybe it was her giving him back a place he'd never truly lost. Madeline stood in his doorway, the quiet hum of the hallway light flickering above them. Evan felt suspended between two lives, the one he'd been barely holding together, and the one waiting just beyond Madeline's steady gaze. Come with me tomorrow, she said gently. We'll finalize everything at the foundation. No speeches. No cameras. Just us. He hesitated. Evan, she added softly, you've spent your whole life putting light on other people. Maybe it's time to decide where yours goes. Those words landed in him like a long-delayed truth. He took a slow breath. Okay, he said. Tomorrow. Madeline's eyes warmed, relief, gratitude, something deeper, then she stepped back, hands clasped in front of her. Good night, Evan. Good night, Maddie. She froze for half a second at the old nickname, then smiled, small and full, like a memory she didn't expect to get back. When she left, Evan leaned against the door, eyes closed. He'd made the choice. And it felt right. The next morning. Emma practically skipped beside him as they approached Pierce Foundation headquarters again, sunlight reflecting off the glass like a beacon. She wore her oversized foundation hoodie like armor, pride glowing brighter than the city lights. Inside, Madeline waited at the center of the lobby, no gown, no cameras, no entourage. Just a woman with a full heart and a new beginning in her hands. You came, she said softly. Yeah, Evan replied. We're ready. Emma nodded fiercely, as if signing a royal decree. Madeline led them upstairs to the executive boardroom, sleek wood, panoramic windows, a place where futures were shaped with pens and signatures. She handed Evan a final copy of his contract. Read it carefully, she said. Ask anything. Nothing is hidden. He scanned the pages. Salary he'd never dreamed of. Benefits that would keep Emma safe. Flexible hours. And Emma's scholarship, confirmed, guaranteed, sealed. Madeline, he whispered, voice tight. This is, life-changing. She exhaled, something tender shining through her calm. So was the day you handed me that envelope at the bus stop, she said. My whole world shifted. Let me shift yours. Evan set the papers down and looked at her fully, not as a billionaire, not as a legend, but as the girl he once walked to school, the girl he saved, the woman who had never forgotten him. And he signed. Emma cheered. Madeline laughed through tears. Something inside Evan finally eased, the weight, the fear, the doubt. Madeline stepped closer, her voice soft. You're not just fixing lights anymore, Evan. She touched the window, where morning sunlight broke across the city. You're helping decide where the light goes. Outside, their reflections shimmered in the tower's glass. A hard-working father. His bright-eyed daughter. And the woman whose life he once illuminated. 3 lives, once separate, now walking the same path as they stepped into the sunlight. A future steady, warm. And finally, their own. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.